You ever see it? Did you ever see that clip? You ever see that clip of Oh, I forgot the Fox News correspondent. He got canceled, but he was at Inside Edition, and it was just, "Fuck it, let's go live." Remember this? Oh, it's good. I'll have to send it. We'll do it live.
So here we are.
Do you remember? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. Bill O'Reilly.
And I hope we are live now, right?
Yeah, live. Yeah, we are.
I dropped an F-bomb because you know what?
First thing you do when we go live, drop the F-bomb. I guess you'll have to put the tag on it.
You know what? They say that people that curse live longer.
Well, you know what? You just showed more passion than our team did out on the pitch tonight. That was despicable.
Awful.
That was a terrible. That was the worst performance of the season for me. I'm not a big reaction guy. Sorry, I don't.
Go for it.
I don't usually do that. I used to do like a little quick thing on TikTok or whatever, like right after matches to give a quick. And I was always trying to be level about it. I'm pissed.
No, I was pissed.
I'm trying to build a YouTube channel on being balanced and not reactionary, and I'm teetering.
No, it's good. I was pissed for a moment from pretty much the kick. People thought that I was watching some. And I might change my background here, but just bear with me. Hopefully, everybody's getting the audio.
Yeah.
But I thought it was poor, really, even from the start. I mean, Leicester was happy to give us the ball, which always feels dangerous. As soon as we are starting to kind of be in possession, it just feels like I don't think that's part of our original game plan. No. So, okay, can we break people down? I just, we created some dangerous moments, but at the end of the day, you have to get the result. And we were so toothless up front. I think, is it no shots on goal? No shots on goal?
Sorry, 12 shots. Leicester had 4, but ours weren't. I think they don't count the crossbar as being on target.
We go
one on target.
One on target. So
our international I'm not, number 9s.
Here's where I am. Here's my punchline. I'll let you guys go, but Jesse can finish the next few days, but I would have him sacked after Liverpool. I am on the phone. I've got my 2 or 3 list of candidates, and it's and it's unfortunate. I think there's been a lot of games where we haven't gotten the calls, the bounces our way, etc. I thought he had a good game plan against Arsenal, but I've seen enough. It was a must not lose. We lost, and I was here. If I was Orta, I would or the three-headed monster, the Three Stooges, as I call them. I was kind of like here with the phone, ready to pick it up. Now I'm picking it up and I'm calling, and I'm getting it down to 1 or 2.
Three Stooges, three-headed monster, 3-ring circus.
It's a circus. It is. Well, look,
I don't want it.
I don't know where the finger of blame lands, though, Alex. And this is where my problem is.
I wanted it to work, but I'm done with them.
If you look at it this way, right? Let's look at it in 3 different ways, right? And try and figure out where the finger of blame lies. Because the easy option is it's the manager. From day one, a lot of fans didn't want him. It's the manager. But there's a couple of bits and pieces. The first one is the players that are on the pitch. And the sheer lack of quality that was there tonight. I mean, there was one stage Somerville got the ball in the second half, was passed into his feet, and he had Rodrigo about to run past him. And instead of passing it, passing it inside to him, he just passes it back behind him. And even the commentator of the game that I was watching, he sighed and went, "Oh God, that's frustrating." There's the players on the pitch not being good enough at times. And today, unfortunately, where they were good for 90 minutes and didn't get a result at the weekend, they were poor for 90 minutes today. That's the first one. Are they good enough? And how many times are we going to say individual errors have cost us in games? Because they did again tonight. Rocket makes the mistake. The back line is just so easy to score against when Cooper is not in it. And he makes his own problems when he is in it. The second finger of blame is the manager, right? And we talked about this last week when we said, if the players can't play your system, then you have to play a system that suits those players. You can't just persevere with a system and say it'll work eventually. Eventually will be too late, unfortunately, for Jesse. That's the second point. So there's 2 different areas here. The third one is the people responsible for putting the players on the pitch and putting the manager in place to play this apparent style that they want played. They wanted the Marcelo Bielsa style, and when they replaced him, they wanted to replace him with somebody who could play a similar style to that. So they want this style played. Great, that's fantastic. But you got to go get the players then that can play in this system. And right now, that team is split down the middle with players who've come in specifically to play that system and players who weren't capable of playing that system last year, back into the season. So there's three different areas there. So where the initial finger point of, if you sack the manager, does this get better? Are the players going to be better? Will the board change their philosophy on January transfer windows? If you don't change the manager, will the board back Marsch in January and let him go and buy what we've been missing since the season kicked off? A left full, because Firpo, I said it on Twitter and I'll say it again, is a bad defender. End of story. Full stop. That is his tagline. The amount of balls that just went around the outside of him in the first and second half like this, repeatedly down the line around him, way too easy. So are they going to buy a left back? Are they going to buy a striker who can score goals? Because Bamford looks a mile off scoring a goal. I mean, the best chance of the night for me was a cross from Christensen in the 55th minute. And Bamford heads it with his shoulder. And like, that's the quality of striker that we're looking at right now. So are they going to back him to get a number 9? And in my opinion, go and buy another centre back as well. You do those three, I think you fix a lot of the problems if you get the right players. But are they going to back a new manager to do that? Or are we ripping the script up and starting from scratch again?
Well, I think
Go ahead.
yeah, no, I hear you, and it's actually a real conundrum because I mean, I guess we're not that far off because of the World Cup. Maybe that's a bit of a blessing in the sense that we don't have that many matches until the January transfer window. So if you stick with Marsch, you know, how much worse is it going to get? You know, we'll still find ourselves probably relatively the same position because there are some pretty terrible teams at the bottom of the pile. But fortunately, we played one of them tonight, and we made them look world class again. So, yeah, I mean, do you stick with him and back him with the right players? I mean, I think he was pretty clear that he wanted those players as well and never got them. We didn't get the striker that we wanted. We, you know, goofed around a whole bunch, and they made a big deal about how, you know, they were so close to getting Cody Hakpo. And then the news comes out from Hakpo himself that actually he was closer to signing for Scum than he was for us. It's a joke. To me, it starts the rot. What's the old saying? The fish rots from the head. And it's been that way for a couple of years now. The fish rots from the head. It is a joke. The top of this club, the ownership structure, whatever's going on there in the boardroom, I have no idea. But the decisions being made at the top, from the transfer strategy to the targets that we're getting, to the communications out of the club, to Angus's program notes, it is a joke. An absolute joke. And that's what needs to change for me before anything else will get better. We can change the manager like we change socks. We can change the players. The fish rots from the head. We need new ownership at the top. That, you know, Rads did it. You know, it was great that we were able to get out. I think they made one fundamentally excellent decision that allowed that to happen. And that was appointing Marcelo Bielsa. Call it lightning in a bottle. You know, they caught lightning in a bottle that one time. It was great that Rads funded the club, you know, to £1 million a month or whatever during the pandemic to keep it afloat. Of course, we can praise him for that. We can praise him for that, but what choice did he have? What choice did he have?
Exactly, yeah. If he doesn't put the money in, the club goes out of business, or he has to sell the
exactly. So we can praise him for that, but at the same time, I'm like, well, what choice did he have? He had to do that. He was just covering his own ass at that point. So yeah, to me, they've actually really made one really good decision. I mean, some of the stuff that happened, and I think this is more coaching staff than ownership, you know, when COVID hit and they had all the big plans in place to have everyone training from home and doing all that stuff was great. That's Marcelo and his coaches that were in charge of that sort of stuff. I don't see that as being at the top. I think they made one good decision and they've been dining out on it ever since. Yeah. It's now time to pay the bill, and Rads can't afford it.
Wow, I would agree. I would agree with everything you said. I would also add that they got Rafinha. Those are the two kind of things. And Rafinha was not just his contributions on the field; it was the 75 million. That was big. Like my father would say, a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while too. So that's what it felt like. The reason why I'm kind of I have no expectations now. Fulham at home. I'm not expecting anything. And here's the thing. That is, I don't know why I'm kind of done with Marsch. The football is poor. We've played 2 really good matches. They've been against top sides who traditionally want the ball. And I just think that we don't have the players to play the way he wants. I don't think we're clinical up front enough for the style of play. And so I'm looking at it, and it just seems we need to close up shop. We really need to close up the back line. There's been red flags all along, and I think we need to be a side that is a Mourinho-like, Big Sam, whatever you want to call it, where we sit in a block and we counterattack. I think that would give us a chance to win week in, week out. If we want to adjust different style of play for big teams, we can do that. But
will never be accepted by the Leeds fan base. That will never be accepted.
Not now.
I just don't.
Not now.
I know, but I
don't disagree with you.
We have to stay in the league, and maybe it's too early. But I just think
I don't disagree with you fundamentally on the players that we have, the squad that we have, and how we have to play. I don't disagree with you at all. I think that's absolutely correct. We don't have the quality to try to do what we're doing. It's at least in defense. We don't have the quality to do it.
That's the biggest issue, because I mean, Sam Allardyce seems to get pushed into the bracket with Sean Dyche on this about playing bad negative football. I don't remember Sam Allardyce team playing a bad style of football. I mean, JJ Kocher playing from one stage at Bolton. Like, they played a great brand of football when he was at Bolton. You know, he was kind of ahead of his time on coaching stuff as well. He brought a lot of technology into sport that wasn't in the game at the time. He had people sitting up high and around different corners of the ground, and earpieces wired up so you could get a 360 view of the game. Allardyce is not Sean Dyche. It's not going to be back to front. But what I will say, and I agree with both of you, is it's built on a defensive solidity. That's the starting point. The foundation of the house is the back four and the goalkeeper and your 6. That's your foundation before you build anything else. And I said, again, I vented on Twitter tonight, but I said, you've got to just be a team to start with. Leeds need to stop losing games. We need to go into games and not lose them. It's great being heroic on Saturday or Sunday against Arsenal, but losing, and then going into a team being poor, who are bottom of the table, and losing again.
Defensively sound.
We're not.
That's what I'd love to see, though.
But you can't bring a manager in right now, because we've said it before. Ferbo's a bad defender. He's not good enough. I don't care. I wanted to give him at least a chance to say his attacking game suits Marsch. He was all over the place tonight. He's not good enough. Llorente is not good enough. He's too panicky. And the back four tonight with him and looked a shell of themselves they did on Saturday when he wasn't in that defence. He causes the back four to look bad. Robin Koch looks like a very, very composed centre half, unless he's playing beside Diego Llorente, and then he looks like a bag of nerves. Yeah. And that's not a coincidence. No. Christensen, I think, is just getting better every game. I thought Christensen had a very good game. Even at the one point, the only calm defender in the first half when a ball gets kicked over the top is he chests it back to Meslier on a 6-yard line. Yeah. He was fine. He was no issue on that side of the pitch. But they were getting match
for me from our perspective.
Definitely. Yeah, I thought he was okay. Sinisterra, and that's when the fans turned.
Yeah,
Sinisterra getting taken off was just a bizarre decision. That is a manager call. But like, just to go into that point that you said there, Alex, we have a slightly different version of that saying. It's a broken clock is right at least twice a day.
That's it.
You know, so it's the same thing. You know, you get it right. And this is my issue with Marsch. I really want Marsch to succeed, and I really want to get behind him. But against Chelsea, up till Chelsea, we were saying we don't know what this Marsch system is. We've seen glimpses of bits, but what is it? What is the identity of this system and this team? And we don't know what that is. But then we beat Chelsea, and we're like, that's it. That's it. That's the thing. Remember the thing we all talked about? That's the thing right there. That's it there. And then we don't do it again for a couple of games. It's like, oh well, they're not clicking, and we're breaking down in areas, and we know to fix it. And then you put a performance in against Arsenal, like, that's it. That's the thing. That's the thing we talked about again. It's like, hang on. At what point is there an actual system and style of play here? And at what point are we just pointing at something when something good happens to say, that's the thing we're trying to do? Because it's starting to look like me that when they get it right, we're saying, yep, that's exactly what it should look like. When we get it wrong, who's to blame? Because it seems to be no one seems to know what system's being played. The substitutions tonight were ineffective completely. Somerville was lucky to stay on the pitch for me up to 60 minutes. I thought from 60 minutes to 90 minutes he was excellent, but he was lucky to be on the pitch for the first 60 because he just wasn't doing enough work. I made some notes in the first half saying the build-up was too slow. Adams and Rocket couldn't pass the ball 5 yards. They were sluggish, lack of intensity. Bamford's falling around the ground and moaning is starting to grate on me just a little bit. You know, whatever with the red card that should have gone to weekend, if you look at that, the more I've looked at it, the more I see a player throwing himself on the ground with minimum contact. And I don't like it. I don't like Leeds being associated with players who dive and cheat. And he's at it all night tonight. First half, he didn't stop rolling around the ground and looking for things that weren't there. Just be a better centre forward. Stand up, be a big, strong 6'4" bloke that you're supposed to be. Knock players off the ball. Stop falling on the ground and looking for free kicks. It's too soft. And we turned over possession constantly. There was too many players caught in possession. Way too many touches and too slow. It was just, and never got any better.
Patrick Bamford right now is back to the Patrick Bamford he was when we all preferred Kemar Roof.
Yeah.
He reminds me a lot of that. He's Patrick Bamford's his running and his positioning is elite. I will say generally, usually it is. It certainly wasn't today. He was just really wasn't on it, even with the one part of his game that is really good. But during his first season with us, if you recall, he had a lot of injury issues and struggled a lot for fitness. And this was sort of the way that he was playing then as well. And it's almost like he feels too much pressure. He gets desperate. He starts doing stupid things. He starts diving and falling all over the place, looking for stuff. I mean, we could see it, during the match previous to this one where he missed the penalty. It was just the sheer look of desperation on him at all times, and it's just not working for him right now. And the problem is we really don't have another player who can do or is capable of doing the things that we know he is capable of doing. There's no way of taking the pressure off of him. No one else is scoring goals. No one else is a number 9 the way that he is. Even Rodrigo, can't really do that role. Can't do the 10 either.
No.
But he can't do the 9 the way that we need the 9 to work. Rodrigo's a 9 in some systems, but he's not a 9 in this one. He wasn't a 9 in the last one either. Maybe he's just not a number 9 for the Premier League.
I don't know how the league is just do the system he's asked to do, Michael. I just don't understand. Like, why is he consistently? They're saying he needs to play a certain way as a number 9. I've played as a number 9, and I pick lots of different managers with lots of different styles. And when they say this is how I want you to play,
you do
that's the job that you do. Why is he doing a different job then to them?
Yeah, I don't know.
Which is half the problem. Like, if you just do the stuff that you're being asked to do, then it will happen. But if you keep going off script and doing your own thing, then you're not connecting to the rest of the players who are, these prepared plans of our phases of play that they do. Well, you're not going to be in the right place when this is finished because you're going off doing your own thing.
Well, there's madnesses going on. There's just a sheer lack of quality. I mean, Rodrigo had chances today and just absolutely scuffed them. Like, I mean, it was. Nothing seems to be working with the front line. Big changes are needed there. The number 9 that we all said we needed is absolutely needed. Do they go and get it now? Can they even afford it? I don't know, but we are absolutely in trouble. There's no denying that. When you play the bottom team and you make them look as good as we made Leicester look tonight, some people are saying that Leicester actually played well. I don't think they played well at all.
No,
they have one shot on target and 2 goals. We put one in ourselves. Like, I mean, they weren't good. We were just really dire.
Didn't even play a low block against us. They just played a very average style
I
game.
just thought we look toothless too.
We were toothless and loose.
I never thought we'd get back into the game even down 2 goals.
Yeah.
I
don't know. I thought if we change it at halftime, maybe they've been weak in the second half of games, but we came out with so little intensity in the second half as well. Started well. Like they've started slow. They've got the ball, but it's slow.
You kind of know if Leeds is going to win when the lineups get announced, and the lineup got announced, and everybody's like, Llorente, oh my gosh! And I thought,
would you like my verbatim reaction to that, Alex?
Yeah, I loved it. And
because I'm looking down and going, yep. Oh God, why?
and then you go to see if Cooper's available, and Cooper is available. So what?
I missed the fact that Somerville had snuck into the team as well. I was like, where did that come from? I made 4 or 5
and then
changes.
You realize both of those players, the regular players, were on the bench.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't he get the start? So I don't know. He'll the presser will come out about that. I just want to catch up on some of the comments. Leeds look hopeless, no hope, no speed. I believe Bamford lost a step. Bamford has lost a step. He looked like there was times where he was 50-50, and maybe Bamford 2 years ago hits an extra gear.
It's sharpness. It's that quick 2 yards off the mark. Here's a scary stat for you, Alex. Phil Hayes just tweeted this out. He said you cannot lose to a team in as poor form as Leicester, if you're being honest. If Leicester, Forest, Wolves and Villa are in trouble, then so are Leeds. There's no hiding from it. Marsch has made a quick exit down the tunnel after the game, leading to chants from the Leeds fans of, where the is Marsch? And he's usually out there giving all this to the fans. He's gone straight down the tunnel. He said last season Leeds were in trouble when they had 10 points from 10 games. This season it's 9 points from 10 games. We're in serious trouble.
Yeah.
We are in worse form than we were this time last year.
The LUFC panic button is in full force. Hit it. If we sack Marsch, we will be stuck with these useless players: Bamford, Firpo, Rodrigo, Llorente.
Yeah, right.
I said sell them. I mean, again, I do think the players are partially to, but then it's like I don't think another coach. You bring Pep Guardiola in here. I don't think he's getting a tune out of Rodrigo. He's who he is. He's 32. No. He's where, you know what I mean? I don't know if some of these players can really step up and become,
they're not good enough.
Great.
They're not good enough for this level. They've had how many seasons you have to have with certain players before you would say they're not good enough? That comment from Digler there, I would agree with that. Okay.
Yeah.
Except here's the problem. The new manager comes in, won't do that. They will lean on experience and not youth to get out of places. They will never do that. And that's the problem with this, is that we've got people. I heard, again, I was listening to Phil Hayes or the Square Ball, and they were talking about Sonny Perkins being the most natural fit for a replacement for Bamford in terms of his stature, and he comes short for the ball, he looks to link up to play. Can't even get on the bench. He played in West Ham's Europa League squad last year and made appearances in the Europa League last year, and he can't even get on the bench for Leeds. Sorry.
You lean on experience, and I don't know where I've always been calling for Jaffe. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know I want to get into Somerville, but I want to catch up on the comments here. A little back and forth about. It looks like Digler is done with Marsch. If we gave away a first goal again, we gave away the first goal again. Another mistake. Nobody picked up Barnes. Yeah, just poor at the back.
Well, that's a knock-on. That's a knock-on effect from Firpo's positioning, because Firpo's out of position. Llorente has to run across to cover the gap that he's left in behind.
Yeah.
So he has to go. When he goes out of the center, then Koch has to fill in and cover his man, which he does, and then Christensen has to cover in and do that man. Who should have been there was Somerville. Somerville should have been tracking back to cover as the extra wide player, or Tyler Adams drops in and does that, but he wasn't there either. They were left isolated with a 3v3 at the back, and they just got overrun by 4 players coming around the outside, and that's the problem.
Yeah, it's defensive dominoes though at the back, right? And it all starts on that left-hand side with Firpo not doing his job.
Whole block moves across like that, and then feeds into the whole space here. Simple as that.
So you have Firpo not doing his job, and then you have a 20-year-old not tracking back well enough to cover for that. Maybe because he's inexperienced and doesn't know that he needs to.
He should be there, yeah. Or your defensive holding midfielder, whether that be Rocket or Tyler Adams, they should drop in and cover. And get dropped out wide as well. And that
it was such a 180 from Arsenal, and it's disappointing. But I think that the tactics were different in both of those games, and I just think he either underestimated Leicester or he got the tactics wrong. So in my mind, I think Marsch is gone. I think it's a matter of time. I don't know. If by some miracle he gets 3 points at home, I think it's going to be a nail biter, like 1-0 type of game. But I do think at some point he's going to get. So what do we go with? And Kelly brings up, if Marsch's decision making is appalling, but who would we get if we get sacked? So
who wants it?
But what style of play would you go with? Would you probably wouldn't bring in another Red Bull person? Would you bring in somebody that sat deep? Would you bring in somebody, Bielsa's underling, I believe that was that. His protege. Do you bring him in? My problem with that is there's not a lot of
system. Anyone
Go ahead.
that knows how to play football,
Position
like actually play it, not
Gerard.
just break it up and go for vibes. Like
Yeah.
we're playing vibes ball. The reason why we look good against Chelsea and Arsenal is because they came to play football. Because they want the ball, they want possession. This system works well against teams that do that if we can catch them. If we can catch them, because they play a high line and we're catching them out. Right?
Yeah.
We can overwhelm them at the back if we get a break. We play pure vibes football. We have no on-ball system at all. None. Zero. It doesn't exist. You tell me what the on-ball structure is, because I don't see one.
It would work well in the championship. It suits the championship this
Sure.
style of football. But this is something we talked about last week, Michael. When you had that the one pager up of Jesse Marsch's style. And I looked at it and I went, that would work great in amateur football. It would work great up to a certain level in even professional football. But it won't work in the top division. It just won't.
Well, it works in Austria.
It didn't work in Germany.
In Austria with the best team in Austria.
But you could argue that it's not the best league and it's not the highest standard.
No, that's exactly my point. That's exactly my point.
When he brings it to Germany,
exactly,
it doesn't
work in Germany.
And it was come to England and it's not working. Or it's working sporadically, but not consistently enough to be at least mid-table. I mean, right now the Leeds fan base expectation isn't super high. We'd settle for mid-table right now. We would happily have a mid-table season to just forget last year and build for next year. But we're not even mid. That's the problem. Like you're trying to implement this free-flowing football system when you're just leaking goals at the back. And every time you look like you're going to do something, an individual error costs you and a mistake is made. Now, that could be down to players being overwhelmed in positions. I mean, the players are very isolated out on that pitch when they don't hunt together in packs. And we were talking about this as well. The pack press didn't seem to exist tonight. It was like Jesse was afraid that Brendan Rodgers knew that we'll press and he'll just clip the ball in behind for Vardy. So we kind of half did it. And the problem with this is it's like you can't be half pregnant. You either do it or you don't do it. You can't half commit to this. And if one player presses, that's what we did tonight, we pressed in singles. That just leaves a space in behind to play the ball into. And you're easy to play through and play out and around. And that's what it was. And we were so narrow tonight that they just played around the outside of us. And they didn't even play with width. They played with narrow, inverted wingers who, as the ball was played around the outside just ran out ahead of our fullbacks and got them the ball. This isn't tough stuff. Like, it's the same as, again, we've said it before.
No, basics.
You can't just keep losing to a low block and blaming a low block. Like, you're a coach, you're a manager at top level. You got to figure out a way to break that down. Yeah. You know, we had 3 separate systems on the park today at different stages. And that to me screams panic and screams, I don't know what to do.
Yep.
And we've got an 18-year-old, and I feel sorry for this kid. I'm going to say it, and there's a couple of them in this bracket, but I feel sorry for this kid. Willie Gnonto isn't even being given a chance to see if he's at this level. We don't know. We can't see him. He's a full Italian international. We don't have an international striker right now except for Gnonto, and he's the only one not getting any game time on the pitch to first team. He's going to potentially miss out on a World Cup because he joined Leeds. Like, they might not pick him now for the World Cup because if he doesn't play any games between now and the World Cup, they pick a different striker who's playing regularly. And he could
not the World Cup anyway, right?
Oh, they're not in the World Cup, are they not? Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Massive faux pas.
Thankfully.
That's it.
This is a good rant, but yeah.
No, how annoyed would you be at something like that?
Your underlying point is spot on. Your underlying point is
the facts aren't there to back up.
No. Look, hey, look.
He should be playing though. He should be.
If we got an international striker this summer, or we've got a striker this summer, would we be in this mess?
No, I don't think
first reaction is no. I don't think we would, because there would have been some. They created before this game. I was like, they're creating chances. We just need to finish the dinner, supper, whatever.
Yeah.
But Jesse, this is who you've got. He doesn't understand who he's got then. And then that's become a problem. And then again, he's papered over the cracks of the back line. You're papering over. Everybody can see it's like, you're rolling the dice here at the back with these, especially in the non-top 6 games. You really, there's chances being created. I thought the outlier was Brentford, but sometimes at Palace you were thinking, God, they could have walked with 3 or 4. There were other games where it's like there's been some red flags along the way, and you have to pick up results against. They've been close games, but now it's no wins in 7, 8,
7.
7. No wins in 7. we can complain. Again, I was right with him. You can complain about the refs. You can complain about like some of these things were happening, and I was with him. I get it. It's close. It's the Premier League. We're not going to get the rubber of the green. But this game tonight, you have to have a better performance than what you did. And you can't count on the top 6 sides. You just can't. I mean, you're not going to get a result at Anfield. I mean, the refs, you're away, everything. It's going to be impossible to get a result there. So I just think, to me, I think he's going to move on. If I'm Orta did talk to Jesse way before Bielsa got sacked. He should be. I'm thinking he's always talking to managers. He has a short list. There's an crap list plan in place. They had it before. The question is, do they pull the trigger now, or do they literally wait for the World Cup?
Marsch is just his press conference, Alex, and I think some of the problem here is I don't think he realizes the problem himself. Like he's first thing he said in this press conference is, I think there's parts of the first half where we actually played quite good. We lose the ball, and then they get a weird own goal, and then we push the game at 1-0. We have chances to make it 1-1. I don't think we did. It's the crossbar, which is a shot out of nothing. We didn't create that. That's just a shot from distance. And he says, but then we give up a goal, and it's a big hole we've dug for ourselves. He wants to apologise to the fans for walking off the pitch. Nothing about them. Wants to focus on Sunday now. And then when asked about relegation, he said it's too soon. But when you look at the table, we're slipping because we're just not getting the results, and it's painful. I think the performances are painful. More so.
Yeah, I think I think this league, and we knew this. I don't know. I think this league might be punching above his weight. But we'll see.
So let's just dissect some of what he said there, because I think thank you for reading that out, Jer. So he said there are parts of the first half that we looked good. I would say maybe the first 5 to 10 minutes we looked okay. Right? We had them under pressure. They struggled to move the ball around. I would say that we looked good because they looked bad. But once they started to get going, even just a little bit, and let's be clear, they never looked great.
No.
Leicester, I mean. But once they started to get the ball even moving a little bit, we completely collapsed. So for him to say we looked good for parts of it is a bit of an overstatement for me. We looked okay.
Average.
Marginally better for parts of the first half at the very start of the match. After that, we never looked better.
They're missing 6 first-team starters, 6, and they're bottom of the table, and no side has conceded more goals this season than they have. Even Bournemouth put a stack past them, and we didn't break a sweat in their box. That's a huge. They are not a good team, and they're at their worst moment right now, and they've just made themselves look like safe mid-table side. It's like, no, we were just so far. It's so hard to get your head around this. How do you go from being so good on Sunday to being so bad today? And part of it has to be, if it was so good on Sunday and it was working and the system was working and you're starting to see these shards of light, why do you make so many changes to your starting lineup? It's bonkers. I understand the Stroke one is enforced, but the rest of them aren't.
Yeah, I mean, he made some of the changes to the. I mean, I don't know. Did he switch Cooper out because Cooper's not fit enough to play 3 games in a week? Like, is that the issue? We ended up having to bring him on in a panic anyway, because that's exactly what he's doing right now, is panicking. You know, I mean, obviously, if you're going to drop Cooper, you can't drop him from the bench too, even if it's a fitness issue. I mean, you have to have he's the captain. You have to have him there. If he's fit. I mean, if he's
every game last season,
but he may just be tired. But yeah, I mean, you're right that the system changed 3 times today, or we played 3 different systems. It changed twice from what it originally was when we went out there. We didn't play the same way that we did against Arsenal. We didn't play the same players we played. Definitely things changed, but fundamentally, I don't think there's a huge difference between the system that we played today and the system we played before, other than the fact that we weren't pressing in the same way, not the same intensity, not the
lack of speed.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The lack of speed, lack of intensity. And of course, you mentioned that, you know, our pressing was sort of one-on-one, right? Like this match, rather than throwing the net over like we have hunting in packs. Why they did that, I don't know. I think you may be correct in your guess that they thought maybe they'd just try to hit long balls to Vardy. Maybe it's Vardy's reputation preceding, but Vardy isn't the player that he used to be. I don't think there's any fear of Vardy anymore. At least there shouldn't be. So if that was the fear, it was totally unfounded, I think. I mean, you're never going to lose your quality, but when you're as good as Vardy is and have done it as long as he has, but he's 35 years old. He just doesn't have what he had before, right? He may have the instincts in the box, but he doesn't have the body. He doesn't have the movement. He doesn't have the speed that he used to. Like, he just doesn't. So, we probably got it wrong from the off in terms of the strategy and how it was set up. But fundamentally, have we really changed all that much? Like throughout the season? Again, to me, it looks like we've just, we play well against the teams that want the ball, and we play poorly against the teams that don't. And it comes down to the fact that our fundamentals are all wrong. We don't have a good on-ball system. The system that we're playing exposes our defenders, and our defenders aren't good enough. We aren't playing a system to match the players that we have.
Our defenders aren't good enough is 100% true. And this is the part that I don't think Jesse fully gets. I don't think he fully understands how bad and leaky the back is. I think he used to think that it's like, we need goals. If we're scoring goals, we're creating opportunities. It's like, we're not going to score goals. This is who they are. The front four is who they are. We've got a pressy front four. They're very fit, and they always have been under Bielsa. But I just don't, the back is not good, and the system does not expose them to be well. And I reflect back onto the run of games, like towards the end of the promotion season. We had some clean sheets in there.
What?
Steven Gerrard just
thought of something?
Just saw that. Jason O'Keefe put it.
Gerrard
sacked. Yeah.
Who sacked?
Steven Gerrard.
Oh, wow.
Steven Gerrard. So, I just don't know. Michael, what system do you go to? Who do you hire? Who do you think is going to be hired, or what answers do you have for Jesse?
Well, let me just go back and clarify my comments about the defense. Two of our defenders are not good enough for this league. Firpo, Llorente. They're not good enough, period. The rest of them aren't good enough for this system because it leaves them too far exposed, right? I think, like I said, Koch is a great defender, I think. He's up to the standard of a mid-table team in this league. Yeah. Christensen is now starting to show himself to be up to that standard as well, I think. He wasn't. He struggled at first. Let's be fair to him, though. He's never played in this league. I think he's now showing the promise that was sort of given to us when we signed him in the first place. And I always kind of felt that way. And though I certainly said it, he's really not getting on right now, I still always held out hope that he would, and he's proving that he can, I think now. Strauch is a gem. I think absolutely up to this standard, probably the best defender we have, frankly.
Looks even better now after that performance today without him.
What's that?
He looks even better now.
Oh, yeah.
Teams like without him in it.
Yeah, he does. It's clear. Yeah, we're even worse. He really proves his worth by not being there as much as he does by being there today. Absolutely. So we're, we have some defenders that are of the quality necessary, but the system does expose defenders no matter who they are. Even if you were to play the most defensive defenders back there, people that didn't bomb forward. Christensen did a good job getting forward today, and he played some nifty balls, and he got into danger quite a bit, but the system does expose them because of the way that we press from the front, and we've always said we're going to get caught by balls through, over the top, or balls hit diagonal.
Counterattacks.
Yeah, exactly. All three sort of forms of counterattacks is what we're going to be vulnerable to, just because of the system that we're playing, and that hasn't changed. That didn't change when we were playing against Arsenal, whatever. It's just the press worked because we were playing against teams that tried to build up from the back, tried to hold possession more. It works against that a little bit better than it does teams that are hitting on the counter themselves. And we got blitzed today. They just played completely through our press. They weren't building up slowly. They were playing diagonally, and that screws us up every time. So what do? We either need someone to come in who has a better on-ball system so that we start retaining some possession. We have some players in the team, I think, that can do that. Raka in particular, I think, absolutely has the ability to ball out in midfield. You see it. He's very press resistant. He rides challenges. He holds the ball. I mean, yes, he made a mistake today. That's like the first time, I think, that he made an error that led to anything like that. I think we have the players to be able to play a system where we would try to retain possession and build up a little bit better than we do. We know that some of the players we had were able to do it under Bielsa before, and I hate to make that comparison, and I don't want to do it because obviously it wasn't working under Bielsa at the end either. But we know that there are players there that can do that. Some of the new guys that have come in, I think, can do that too. We do have some players like Aronson, for example, who absolutely fit a Marsch style system a little bit better because they're very reactive, very, very much about pressing and hitting. But look, I think we need some balance is the main thing, right?
I will say we were, just to look at a crystal ball, read the tea leaves. We did kind of talk to Gerrard back when he was in the Scottish Premier League.
Yeah,
that was kind of a rumor as a successor to Bielsa.
There's a big void with that though, and I saw Kelly saying it, and someone else is saying it. Dale was saying it there in chat about no Gerrard for Leeds. I think he wants that move more than Leeds do. It's the first thing where I think he's kind of always said nice things about Leeds when he's been asked about the links with Leeds.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have a discernible style of play, and Leeds board are obsessed with this style. Like my brother's an Aston Villa fan, so I get to hear regularly about how they're doing. He hates him, can't stand Gerrard as a manager, and he said he doesn't know what the style of play is. He doesn't know what's changed between him and the last manager. It just seems to be more. He tends to point the finger at players more and hang his players out to dry publicly when he gets a chance. But outside of that, there's nothing special about Steven Gerrard as a manager, except for the British media who want him to be seen as a hero. Same with Lampard, same reaction. Sky Sports and BT protecting two of their favourite friends. That's all that is. He's not a good manager. He's proven it. He managed Rangers, fair enough. There's two teams in a tin pot league in Scotland, and one or two. Exactly. Yeah. But he's Marsch without the substance. That's the thing. At least Marsch has an idea what he thinks he wants to do. Gerrard doesn't seem to know what he wants to do or is capable of doing anything. But it's
and Lampard is the same.
That comment there in the chat as well from Jason just said that he thinks Cooper was dropped because he doesn't have the pace to keep it Vardy pretty close to the mark. Marsch says that he on the starting line he said they dropped Cooper to protect him in a 3-game week. That worked out well, didn't it? Because I thought we were much better when Cooper came on the defense. I thought at least we didn't look as wide open as we had done. And this is a silly comment for Marsch. Because he doesn't have the stock in the bank. He just said that, asked about the Bielsa comments from the crowd, he said that he knew how much support Bielsa was given by the board, and he believes they'll continue to back him in the same way, despite the way the season has gone so far and the crowd's reaction tonight. The difference between Marcelo Bielsa and Jesse Marsch is Marcelo Bielsa had money in the bank. He had a promotion. He was the first manager to ever get Leeds back to the Premier League. He has that behind him of producing great football in a team that competed for 2 years and finished 9th in the Premier League. He has credit in the bank. He's allowed to have a bad season. You don't have that credit. So I would stay away from comparing yourself to Marcelo Bielsa if you want to keep the fans reasonably behind you.
Yeah, that's poor form.
Incredibly naive comment. I keep saying that about Marsch. Like that's a comment I keep noticing I'm saying about stuff with Marsch. That's a naive comment to make. That's a naive decision to make. He thinks everything's going to just be okay if he sticks to his ethos and it's going to work. And unfortunately, the working days are far slimmer than the guys that don't work.
Yeah,
it's a shame. That's not good enough tonight at all.
What do you do, Jer? What do you think is the best course of action? Do you back Jesse? Do you think he picks up results, or do you go with another manager? And if so, what kind of system would you look for?
It's a really tough question, Alex, because as we said before, there's no guarantee that changing the manager is going to make anything any better. I do agree with what Michael said about bringing in a possession-based manager that we players play. I think that suits us down to the ground. I would really like to see us start playing with a back three, because I think when we did it against Aston Villa, we looked far safer there. Again, just go and buy a wing back and we're sorted. Get a left wing back and that fixes that issue. I think Llorente works well as a 3. I think Cooper works well in a 3. I think it covers all the weaknesses the 3 of them have. But I mean, unless you're going to change some of the personnel or change the style of play, what's the point in changing the manager? It's not going to change. It's not going to get any better by bringing a new person in. You might get the honeymoon period of a couple of weeks of a kick up the arse, and then it's going to just start to fall away again. And I think Jesse has this week. I honestly think he has this week. I think he gets Fulham and Liverpool, and then I think we got Bournemouth, don't we, coming up soon as well? And then there's the break. I think he gets to the break, and then I think there's some serious questions that need to be asked of both what he expects to get from this team and what the board's plan is in the transfer window. Because if Leeds go into the transfer window, not going to sign anybody, we're in big, big trouble.
Oh, we're signing Hackpo, remember?
Oh, yeah, we are getting hacked, aren't we? Oh, we're going to be fine. We're going to be grand. We're going to be like...
You're on mute, Alex.
So
rookie work mistake.
just to sum up kind of where you're at, give him until the break. Look at the table. If we're in the relegation scrap, I guess maybe 16th or below, or 15th or below or so, we look at switching over the manager.
Yeah,
fair.
I think it's
fair.
definitely on the
I think
table
that's fair. I think that's fair. I don't know. I want this to work. I know where it's, the comment is, Joe says, where's it gone wrong?
There could be an argument to say,
I don't want to,
James.
It might have it's gone wrong in recruitment. Let's be honest. It's gone wrong in recruitment. We wanted some better,
the lack of
recruitment. And I think it's gone wrong. Like tonight, I think he got the tactics wrong. I think he's just, and I thought he got the lineup wrong. Everything tonight was wrong. I think he's not assessing his players. He doesn't know what he's got in his players necessarily. Like, I don't know. And I do think he's papering over the cracks of the back line. I think he thinks the back line is better than it is, and it's not. It needs to be shored up, because the reason I say this mostly is because the front 3-4 are not clinical. They're just not going to be. These Bamford, Rodrigo are who they are. They're mid-career, and so now you're asking for a young player to come in and be the answer, and that's tough.
Yeah,
that's real tough. So
there's tons of comments in the chat there that I agree with. And so like how many points we need from the next 4 games, 5 at least. Lee is saying, I think he's in a situation where he needs to start getting 6 to 9 points in the next 4 games, and that's unfortunately there's teams in there that he's unlikely to get those points against. But if you want to get out of this problem, you got to start putting results together. I mean, the Man United game, whenever that comes, could be a game that actually saves, and you actually get a result against them this year because of how he's playing. But he's got a big couple of weeks coming up ahead of him. I don't know if he has what it takes to fix it. And I am now feeling that the moments of the good football that we saw were the accidents. They weren't the norm. They were just freak
outliers.
Performances. Yeah.
We were more clinical in set pieces. That's the piece where we've been getting some set pieces. Those could be saving Jesse right now.
Well, you look at Bamford. Bamford has missed 8 big chances. He's the number 1 leader of the Premier League in terms of big chances missed. So it should be goals. That's 8. That's 8 goals that he should be getting. Where a clinical striker takes 8 chances and scores them. We're in this bracket again of, you don't want to see Bamford out of the team because he's done so much for Leeds over the last 3 or 4 years, and he's the first season in the Premier League and very romantic about him finally showing his worth as a 9. But you've got to be honest, in the ageism with these players, the same Michael said about Rodrigo, the ageism with these players, they've had their moment, and we can't sit and wait for another season of Pat Bamford doing this like he did when he came back from injury the first year he was with us. Before we get that clinical season, we need that now. Even the season where he was clinical, or we thought he was clinical in the Premier League, he was still the top of the chart for missed opportunities. Like he still misses more than he scores. If we have a striker who's clinical, we are creating chances in games. And if we get a clinical striker, we take them and it changes the narrative. But unless the board go out and buy a top striker, and I don't know if you can now, because who wants to come to a team in January struggling at the bottom half of the table? Are you going to try? Because Hackpo's already said straight up, he's going to. I want to go to Manchester United. That's you're done.
Yeah.
I don't think Leeds fans even want you now. That's fair enough. You made that statement. Off you pop. But who else is out there? I mean, Jonathan David in France is a player that I think would be a really good fit for this team. He's quite direct.
I looked at him before.
Yeah,
I know him well because he's Canadian.
Yeah, he's been linked with 2 other clubs today that Leeds aren't even looking at. But Everton are. Teams around Leeds are starting to look at these players that we've had a little dip in with. You know, I don't know why we don't just go and buy a striker. Is it Burton Diaz? You go and just bite the bullet and give, Blackburn 15 million in January and say, look, just give us the player. If that is the case, that deal could be done now. That could be done now, boxed off on the 1st of January. He's a Leeds player. There's no reason to wait. But we do. We're gonna wait. And I don't know what the easy fix to this is. I think at some point we've got to make a decision on Bamford, and just say we can't afford to keep waiting. Joffrey didn't exist in the game today when he came on, lost the ball, fell over the ball at one stage, and that was pretty much it. He's got to be given a chance to run and see if he can do it. Nyanto's got to be given a chance to see if he can do it. I'm not one of these people that says, give the young players a chance because the first team players aren't doing well. I'm saying it because we don't know if they're up to this level or not, and we can't make an educated decision on them. So just got to be a moment where we put these players in. Did it Somerville tonight, and he was okay. But at some point, he's got to do the same with the other two and see, can they actually go and get some goals. If he's going to start Gelhardt, he needs 3 or 4 games in a row. He needs a run of games to find his rhythm. And then just sacrificing 3 or 4 games again as well. So
I want to draw together a few disparate threads of things that sort of have come up recently, like tonight. And I've seen there's a comment about O'Leary that kind of refreshed my memory a little bit. We talked a little bit about building building your team, squad building from the back.
Yeah.
And that made me think of O'Leary. And then just someone else had actually mentioned O'Leary in the comments. So it all kind of came together for me. And here is the thing about the O'Leary era that I think differs from today. Let's be honest about the O'Leary. We did not play great football during the O'Leary era. What we had were some very, very good experienced players, especially at the back with Radaby. We had Batty shielding them. We had someone like Dakor coming in as well to shield and to play that midfield role. So really we had, and then Nigel Martin in the back as well was obviously just phenomenal. Garrett Kelly was another one. We brought in quality with Rio Ferdinand, Jonathan Woodgate as well.
I gotta jump on that.
And Dominic Matteo.
Go ahead.
We had really strong, solid defensive core in midfield and in the back with those players. And then we just let the young guys ball out.
Yep.
Without necessarily having a strategy other than direct ball, but just go ahead and ball out. We could do that because we had the core at the back.
Yeah.
We're trying to do that now. We don't have the core for it. And that's the big difference for me.
Yeah, I agree.
I got to jump in the next 5. Keep it. If you guys want to keep it going, you can. But I got to jump off camera real quick.
We're actually hitting an hour here as well. God, this is flying by because of all the ranting. That's a new saying. Time goes by when you're ranting at Leeds. This is just flown by. And I completely agree. And Dagler was saying, I agree with what Dagler said. I did see the comment about O'Leary did it with the young players. I'd like to see that happen, but I agree with Dagler, and I think it's the correct thing to do. I just don't think they'll do it, and that's my worry with that. Yeah. I just don't see it happening.
There it is. Yeah, we had Dagler. We had lots of young kids come in under O'Leary. We did. But we also had that solid base to work from.
You got to sacrifice the season. And bear in mind, we did have 2 seasons of George Graham where it was dire to watch.
Yep.
We didn't concede goals.
Yeah.
So the basis of the defensive side of Leeds was kind of built under the George Graham era, although it was awful to watch, and God, it really was. But then O'Leary took it in with a couple of exciting young players and added that to that strong base. We're in a position where we're probably stronger in the upper middle part of the pitch, not up front and not at the back. And that's the problem. That we are in a literal shit sandwich here where it's, crap here, and it's all right in here. It's, it'll do.
The reverse shit sandwich.
Reverse the sandwich.
piece of bread slathered between.
We just don't. Actually, sorry, there's a comment there that I'd love to address. Just popped in there from Digger again. George Graham was great, but messed up your boa. I was obsessed
Yep.
with Tony Yeboah as a kid, as every young Leeds fan was. And I bought a videotape that was about Tony Yeboah coming from Stuttgart in his area, in a kind of a documentary. It was done in really cheap VHS, the really cheesy music the whole way through it and bad narration. But Yeboah was interviewed and he made a statement the next day and he said, I'm just the kind of player who doesn't look like I'm putting it in training, but I am, but I just don't look like I care about training. And then I remember when George Graham got hold of him and dropped him from the squad, he said, he's just not doing it in training. He's just not doing it. I was like, there's literally a VHS tape where he explains that to everybody.
Yeah,
and you're not watching it. Yeah, he made an absolute balls of that. But
he had his process, right? And he was brilliant.
He stuck to it. But the merits where you got George Graham, he didn't concede goals. Maybe that's the position we're in. We go back to it. I know it's not an exciting conversation, Sam Allardyce, and by Jesus, I don't want it, but as I said, he's not Sean Dyche. He doesn't play long ball football. He just focuses on the defensive aspect of it and a bit more aggressive team. We're too nice. We're too easy to play against.
I mean, that's got to be it. For me, an in possession system, and I'm not saying necessarily even replace Marsch. I'm just saying he needs to find a system that works because the one that right now isn't, and maybe he's capable of it, maybe he's not. I guess we'll find out. But, I think a lot of the concern with Marsch has been that he comes to the table with somebody else's system and none of his own ideas.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's true because I mean he was a midfielder. He played in different systems. He must have some sense of what to do, but maybe he's afraid to do it, or maybe he just doesn't. I don't know, but I think we either need an in possession system and while like I said at the start, I don't think the Leeds fans really put up with it. Maybe now is the only time they might, if it's the difference between survival and relegation, is to go to a very defensive George Graham like system. But do we have the defensive core for that? Do we have the players for it to play?
Yeah,
I don't know.
No.
Maybe we do. I guess bad teams play a low block and it works for them sometimes.
Chin up, Justin. Justin's been he's been on the ledge. We're right there with you, brother.
We're not laughing at that bit, mate. We're laughing.
Yeah. We're approaching about an hour. I am going to make this available on Spotify. This was a great, venting session. I mean, yeah, I just feel like for me, I feel like there's the camp of we're moving on from Marsch at some point, and then there's the camp of give them until the World Cup, look up at the table, see where we're at, and assess. I don't know. I'm on the fence. I could be in either one. I just don't know where the next result's going to be. I think that for me, we have to be, as Jer said really eloquently, we got to be sound in a defensive structure, and I don't see that really available. Yeah. And the biggest thing for me, what's clear to me is that we're not clinical. We're just not we're not going to be a clinical team that puts 5 goals up. I mean, Bielsa, he's a god. He was able to get 5-2 games. He was able to get, results and against a West Brom I guess that was West Brom back then. But, I don't know if another manager can get that out of the players that we have currently. So in that analysis, we have to shore up the back line. Jer said go to a back 3. I agree with that, but until then, it's going to be squeaky bum time. But any other final thoughts before I end the stream, boys?
I'm just going to. Diggler said it there, and somebody else said it earlier on, and I agree 100%. Sorry, my dog is moving my camera again. I like Jesse Marsch a lot. I think he is an incredibly affable guy. I think he is a great representative. If you've got a brand and the club is a brand, he looks good as the Leeds manager. He talks well. He's engaging. He's open to journalists and press, and he gives off a good feeling about the club. But I don't know if his system is going to work in the Premier League, and so far it's showing that it's not. I do feel a lot of the blame lies with the board for leaving 2 or 3 positions gapingly obviously open and not acting properly to fill them, to back the manager to build the project. I only said on Sunday we're 3 players off being a really good team. But the problem is when it goes wrong, and it went wrong, it shows. We couldn't finish, and one of our left back is a problem. He's a big problem.
It's a brutal league. It's brutal. Yeah.
So I think
Just-
I've been talking a lot about system and how I think the system needs to change. That's not, I don't want that to be necessarily a criticism of Jesse Marsch as a manager, as a system. What I'm saying is that the system isn't working with the players that we have right now.
Yeah.
And if you go back to what I said at the start, the fish rots from the head. That's the issue for me, is that the board has not given Marsch what he needs to be successful. Now, what does success look like under Jesse Marsch? If he had all the personnel that he needed, if the squad was filled out the way that it needed to be, the way that it should be, what does that look like? Well, it probably looks like mid-table, and that's fine. That's fine for us right now. It's
Year
something
two.
to build from.
Yeah.
I don't think under Jesse Marsch we're going to be a team pushing for Europe, even if we have excellent players necessarily. But I think he was the guy that we needed when we brought him in. He may still be the guy that we need now, but not with the way things are going in terms of how the squad is built, the way things are set up. Unfortunately, if the axe has to fall, it falls on the manager, because the board's not going to sack themselves.
No.
And you can't get rid of the players. So, I mean, that's where the change has got to come. Jesse's got to figure it out, or else he's going to get sacked.
Yeah, and I said he sacks himself. If he doesn't get 4
Yeah.
from the next 4, he sacks himself. So,
Yeah.
and that's the way it was like with Bielsa too.
It should be.
I felt like Bielsa was sacking himself at the end with the 4-1 and the 5-0 and all this stuff. But anyways, I digress. Marching on together, Leeds. Like, comment, subscribe, please. Please. I got my son here. He's gonna eat his arm. Like, comment, subscribe. Jeer Lynch on Twitter and Instagram. Follow his YouTube account, The View. The View is daily content. It's great. It's just, I call it just the facts, ma'am. It's all sound news stories coming out of Jeer. It's nothing, no fluff, and he gives you context too, which is great.
I gotta do this again in the morning. Great.
Drag
Michael
of Leeds media, the drag, just the facts.
The drag, yeah. I got called a hack during the week.
Follow Michael's Twitter. And Michael's Twitter is
At Maynardam.
See you, fellas.
At Maynardam.
Bye,
See ya.
guys. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye. Hey.